There are so many books out there and so many articles out there on leadership. It's hard to know where to start. And if you do take a serious course like an MBA or another master's, then you're surely going to be taught all about leadership. It's one of the core modules and the core parts of most MBA programs. And I'm here today. My name is Joe O'Brien. I've recently achieved my online MBA, and I'm here to share some of the lessons that I've learned from my MBA that are typical across other MBA programs. Now, currently I work as a marketing consultant and also the content development manager for Edology. I'm responsible for the content that we put on Edology.com. What is Edology.com for those that don't know? We believe that online learning is the accelerant for your career, and we've affiliated with loads of universities and offering great courses that are 100% online. So we're going to talk about that in a minute. But today's subject is a leadership class, and we're going to focus on leadership style. So without any further ado, let's start looking at what we're going to learn today. Now, in today's session, we should be able to answer the following questions. What type of leader am I? Can I identify leadership styles in others, maybe previous bosses or current managers? Are leaders born or made? The typical question that we see and we answer on MBA courses. What leadership style will work for me? This is probably the most important question that you have to answer. What kind of leader do you want to be, and what kind of leadership style will work for you with the aims and objectives that you and your organization have? And lastly, we're going to be talking about the MBA program throughout. So how can an MBA or a course like an MBA help you become a better leader? How can it help you understand your value to your organization and to yourself? So we're going to look at a whole bunch of leadership styles today. We can't possibly cover them all. There's quite a lot of leadership terms and styles that kind of cross each other, and they're kind of similar, but we're going to look at some of the main styles that we've picked up. Hopefully you're going to just learn a bit about, the kind of leader that you are. You're going to be able to identify these leadership styles around you. So let's start with the first one. The authoritarian leader. The authoritarian leader, or the autocratic leader. I'm sure we're very familiar with dictators, other authoritative leaders out there. The authoritarian leader is exactly as they sound. They're an authoritarian. That's not all bad necessarily. They're visionary leaders, and they take a firm but fair approach that mobilizes members towards specific goals. It's also known as the come with me style. They clearly set their expectations ahead of them, but they have significant control over their staff. Now, the worst type of authoritative leader can be quite aggressive, maybe slamming their hand on the table, demanding results, threatening to fire you or get rid of you or replace you with someone else. An authoritative leader can be quite coercive, have that significant control, and they might rarely consider your suggestions in the workplace or share their power with you. They like to maintain what we call a large power distance between employer and employee. So that's the authoritative leader. I'm pretty sure none of us are looking to become authoritative leaders, but there are times when one has to be authoritative, I'm sure, and we have been in the past as managers and will be in the future. The laissez-faire leader. You couldn't get more of an opposite leader than the laissez-faire leader. So what does laissez-faire mean? When it's a French term called let it be, let it do. So that means let them go on and manage themselves in a way. So the laissez-faire leaders are characterized by this kind of hands-off approach. They allow their employees to get on as they see fit. We might have had laissez-faire managers in the past. They kind of let you get on with it, as we say. They leave you alone, but you can kind of feel a bit ambiguous about your role, perhaps. Laissez-faire managers are great in organizations that have people with lots of experience, maybe in creative roles. I do appreciate a bit of laissez-faire management myself. It allows me to go on and be a bit creative and provides me scope for my own initiatives. There are problems with laissez-faire management. Obviously, if you leave something to go and sort itself out, then what are the mechanisms of control there? So laissez-faire managers can be laissez-faire maybe by name, but a good laissez-faire manager will communicate their expectations, maybe rarely but clearly, and they'll make sure that standards don't slip. I mean, I think that's easier said than done, but laissez-faire management is a key concept that you will learn and look at in leadership modules. The path goal leader. Nowadays is all about new project management tools from Lean and Sigma 6 now to Agile, Scrum. You're looking at those 2-week sprint cycles. You're going from path to goal. I mean, that can be very exhausting, but it can be also be quite motivating to look at an objective, all aligned to that objective, and look to complete that objective. That's the path goal leader. We might talk about the typical Steve Jobs or leaders in IT that look to launch, say, a piece of software or something onto the market, and they're looking really at that path goal leadership. It's based on Vroom's expectancy theory. It's an individual will act in a certain way based on the expectation that act will be followed by given outcome. So a path goal leader understands the characteristics of their employees. They understand how they behave, and therefore they can adapt their communication to their employees to set them on the correct path towards that goal. They focus very much on motivation and working towards that goal. But as we said earlier, that can be exhausted. How many times can you reiterate a path goal mentality if you're working for 4, 5, 6 years in an organization? Can you just keep on going from one path to one goal, and so on and so forth? Now, we all like discussing this one, the charismatic leader, and I hope you've all had a charismatic leader at some point in your work experience. The charismatic leader, as they say, has lots of charisma, charm. They're a visionary. You're kind of drawn towards them, and that helps very much if you're looking, to deliver a big vision or strategic initiative in your company. Charismatic leaders are, very eloquent verbally, and they have the ability to communicate with people they lead on a profound and importantly, the word there is emotional level. Charismatic leaders can suck you in, convince you of their vision. They're mentors who can inspire you, and that they're all about being personal and all about feelings. Now, in the readings, when they discuss charismatic leadership, they often talk about patriarchal, fatherly, or matriarchal, motherly characters. These people that are in all of our lives that develop this loyalty, and you kind of follow them, and they have this kind of hold on you, all this charm or charisma, and that's that is charismatic leadership. But again, how far will this leadership style take you? How far can your charm take you? We were discussing earlier the questions that we're looking to answer today. One of them is, a leader's born or made? And I think the charismatic leader is a good example of a leader that people would assume, oh, that someone's born charismatic. Oh, he's a natural leader. Look at his charisma. But if we look here, these individuals are very eloquent. They have the ability to communicate on a profound level. To do that, you have to read a lot. You have to be, have a high IQ level, be intelligent to be eloquent, have a large vocabulary. That certainly can be learned. Now, some others would say that things like a symmetrical face are important. There are certain visual characteristics, body language as well from the charismatic leader. But again, body language can be taught as well. So you can kind of learn to be charismatic, but I do honestly feel that a bit of natural ability also is in there for the truly great and successful charismatic leaders. Very popular, probably the most popular management style, the one that you'll see most often in most organizations, the transactional leader. If you do this, I'll do this. At its worst state, it's authoritarian. If you don't do your job, I won't pay you, or if you do your job, I will pay you. Or you won't get your bonus unless you achieve these targets, for instance. That's very transactional. But also transactional leadership can be very effective and has its time and place. It focuses on the organization, focuses on group performance. It's again monitoring performance very closely. The transactional leader will want to make a deal with you. This is a theory, first described, here by Weber and later by Bass in the early 80s. It's something that you can go and find out more about yourself. It's based on a reward and punishment scheme. I'm sure we've all had managers in the past that have displayed these tendencies to reward or punish people based on their performance. That's very transactional behavior. The transactional leader believes in extrinsic motivation. Extrinsic motivation, as learned by Hatzberg and others, is based very much on the surface things that you get from a position, such as your money, your remuneration, or your work conditions. So they'll hold things like bonuses, pay, work conditions over your head if you don't perform. That's a transactional style of leadership. The servant leader servant leader does everything for their team, really leads, for example, and I've got a quote here by the theorist Robert Greenleaf. The servant leader is a servant first. It begins with the natural feeling that one wants to serve first. So you're really talking about leading by example, maybe mucking in, doing the kind of tasks that maybe might not be associated with normal managers, but by that you get the buy-in by leading by example. You don't believe that any job is below your pay grade. And you use empathy to get the buy-in from your followers. And by that I mean you practice empathy by doing those hard tasks. You show your employees that you know what it's like to be them, and you understand what it's like to be in their shoes, and that way the servant leader can get the buy-in as well. But I'm sure we can see that that's not practical all the time to be a leader who's in servitude to your team. The shared leader. Sharing leadership can be very complex, but a lot of new organizations who don't believe as much in the typical hierarchical model of leadership, want to do maybe a holacracy or more kind of a flatter organization, are all about sharing leadership, getting people into positions that are knowledgeable, have certain amounts of experience, and can distribute leadership across teams. So by shifting the perspective from viewing leadership as a single person activity to viewing it as this collective construction process, so it's a lot of collaboration here. The space will open up for participants to express their agency, their rights at work, to express their problem-solving abilities and beliefs of what should happen strategically at every stage of the process, from the ideation here to the implementation. It's a very collaborative model of working. You'll always hear collaboration in the office as a positive thing. You'll never hear collaboration as negative, but I don't believe that it's always good to be collaborative. I believe sometimes there are times and places for employees and managers to take tasks on for themselves. If you share everything, there can be kind of a dilution of vision, that you can kind of lose fidelity there. So collaboration maybe doesn't work for everything, but in certain decision-making processes, a shared leader can aim to get consensus for general issues through sharing. You distribute your task and your strategy ownership amongst your team, and you look to build consensus to ensure what is the enduring vision that you've been handed down, or that you've come up with for your company. The transformational leader. When I started my MBA, I read about transformational leadership, and that was the leader that I wanted to be. In practicality, I think you need to look at a number of styles, and you have to have them all in your toolbox to really be a successful leader, as I'm sure you're seeing today. But the transformational leader is a very alluring style of leadership indeed. Transformational leadership focuses on initiating change in organizations. Now, we say transformational leadership is very suitable for now because all organizations are undergoing rapid technological advancement and development, with incoming of AI and other technologies, social media, digital marketing. There's so much change in organizations that transformational leaders are needed to keep people up with continuous change. The transformation leader is an agent of change. They're able to motivate others, sometimes beyond their normal capacities. And they focus on initiating change in that organization. They understand intrinsic motivation. So this is the other side of the coin to what we were talking about earlier, transactional leadership. Here, intrinsic motivation is based on your love for your job, for your fellow colleagues, the satisfaction you get when you complete a task. That's intrinsic motivation. The transformational leader understands that type of leadership and can wire into that. And if you combine maybe transformational leadership with a bit of charismatic leadership, then you're looking, maybe to provide a potent formula for companies that are going through a lot of change. The primal leader, or the emotional leader. Goleman's book, The Primal Leader, looked at the issue of emotional intelligence, or EQ. I'm sure a lot of us might have heard about emotional intelligence and the growing importance of that alongside IQ and experience in leadership and in the workplace in general when we look at candidates who we're hiring. Now, primal or emotional leadership, that's a process that leaders use to influence their followers in a common goal. Now, emotional intelligence, as we said, is the ability to perceive that, to assess and manage those emotions. You have to be critically reflexive, and that's the ability to kind of look down at yourself, while you're behaving and change your behavior on the fly. It's self-awareness, but it's also self-management. You have to have social skills. You can manage themselves, but you can also manage relationships. And those are kind of the 4 pillars there of emotional intelligence. There's plenty that you can read on that. But start with Goldman's The Primal Leader. That's the way to start if you want to learn about being an emotional leader. Really what I think leadership is all about, and successful leadership is all about, is about developing your own brand of leadership and about being able to clearly communicate that brand to others. I think it's also about being authentic and being able to convince others to come with you because you believe in the idea as much as they do. And that's the authentic leader. The authentic leader isn't an easy ticket to leadership. I think you need a track record really to develop loyalty from your staff. They believe you are who you are because you've got a track record of doing the things you said you were going to do. So authentic leadership is an approach to leadership that emphasizes building the leader's legitimacy through honest relationships with followers, which value their input, built on ethical foundation. Now, generally, authentic leaders are positive people, truthful self-concepts who promote openness. They do not hide their weaknesses. And through this, they achieve great loyalty. And I think, all of us should and could strive to be authentic leaders in our organizations, as well as in our families and social lives. The authentic leader really is a construct that we can certainly aspire to. Now, we haven't covered everything, as we said today. So go ahead and go and learn about bureaucratic leadership, participative leadership, candid leadership, where you say whatever you want, strategic leadership, cross-cultural leadership. In today's world, that's very necessary, and many, many more different styles of leadership. Now, if you really want to study this deeply, what you're really going to have to do is you're going to have to go and do an MBA or a master's course. And that's what we promote on Edology.com. We promote online education as a means for career acceleration. And we have here on Edology.com great options here in the programs, career paths, and some great interesting articles in the blogs. Now, if you're looking at an MBA masters, you can look at them in the following fields, but we'll pick business and management today as that's our subject. We can view the programs and apply. And you can see the different MBAs that we have at our affiliate institutions that are all online and all available with the prices and the applications there. If you apply for these courses, you'll be contacted by an education consultant who will chat to you so that you can make an informed choice. I know that when I was doing my MBA, I was thinking about maybe doing project management. And I'm glad that I spoke to someone and they moved me on to an MBA. And that was clearly a good choice for me. If you want to learn about more career paths, maybe you want to go into marketing or something else, we have options here and discussions about people's careers. Also, we have a lot of statistics here about how higher education can help you succeed in your profession, especially if you're studying online. Now, this has been an Edology.com webinar. If you want to learn more about leadership assessment methods, you can go and do a DISC assessment. That's a very popular psychological assessment. There's always the Myers-Briggs out there. Psychological assessments abound. Strength Finders is very analytical. You can go to their website, strengthfinders.com. And my favorite is 360 feedback sessions. Want to know what kind of leader you are? Sit your fellow leaders and managers around you and have a discussion about strengths and weaknesses, how you're aiming to get to your objectives. Thank you very much. My name is Joe O'Brien. This has been the Edology.com webinar, and we'll see you all in class. Thank you.